Kevin, thank you for inviting me to your studio today. I am both thrilled and intimidated being here because I know that lots of magic happens and I, am not a dancer. Tell me when you became a dancer.
When I was in elementary school, so around 6 years old, I went to Weisser Park, which is a magnet arts elementary school.
Great school.
So every day we had a different art class. So whether it be music class or dance class or what have you, we were introduced to arts very young. So that way when we would go into first grade, we would take an intramural class either before or after school. That was an art class. So I chose to do dance and choir. And so on Fridays we would have performances at the school. And so at the time Fort Wayne Ballet had a professional ballet company that would come in and offer performances and things. And so I was just enamored by the costumes and things like that. So in first grade I decided that I wanted to take ballet as part of my intramurals. And then through that, about third grade is when I got my first chance to be in like the Nutcracker and to do a full performance. And so once you experience being on stage with all of the live music and all of the other dancers and the costumes and the magic that happens within the whole production, after that I was pretty much sold. So I would say probably around third grade is when I knew that I wanted to be involved with dance for the rest of my life if possible.
That's so interesting because so many kids that age, we were just talking about my daughter. I have a 5-year-old who would dress up in a tutu all day long. I don't know if she actually has an interest that will carry through her life. So was it really at that point so young that you were like, oh yeah, this is it?
Absolutely. I would say because with me going to Weisser Park and because they kind of made sure that arts were an everyday thing that occurred in your life, it made me realize it even sooner than I think other students may have.
Sure.
You know, if you go to more of a traditional school where you're just doing, your math and your language arts and things like that, which obviously are important, then you might be more of a studious type of student, where I was more interested in the arts even in, like 9 years old.
Yeah.
So
now, were you good at it from the start? Especially with ballet, they talk about, having the turnout and having the right feet and that kind of thing. Were you sort of like genetically predisposed to be a dancer?
Oh, not at all. Even now, I don't have what would be considered the correct body type.
Okay.
I'm more short and more muscular, which is more for a gymnast. I have more of a gymnast type of facility, as we would say.
Yeah.
But I think my passion and my fortitude is what helped me get to the level that I was able to accomplish. But a lot of people my age are still dancing professionally, whereas I chose to teach even in my early 20s. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I didn't really have the facility that I desired for the career that I also desired.
So cut to, you open your own studio, which is incredible, but it's not even a studio. It's a program?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me, let's talk about the nuance
Yeah.
there. These kids are committed.
Yes.
I was reading about you and your program and I thought, man, to do some sort of alternative school so that I could do what I love and am passionate about would be, the best.
Yes.
So is that what you had in mind from the beginning, or how did it sort of evolve?
Well, when I first started teaching, I realized that there were a lot of students that primarily studied other styles of dance, but they wanted to get good ballet training. And so it's kind of hard to be able to go to a ballet school and also be able to dance at a traditional dance studio, because the commitment has the same amount of hours. So to be able to fit all of that in, lots of times you can't. So they try to make you choose one or the other.
Right.
And so when I realized that there was like a niche in the market and that I could offer the best of both worlds to everyone. So my whole idea was that kids could come to me for their ballet training, but not have to be dually committed, because they don't have to feel like they have to do a Nutcracker or, a ballet competition, or they have to be here every day. It's solely a training-based program, so there's no performance commitments. It's only they're just coming here to become better dancers for whatever style they decide that they want to choose in the future for their career.
Yeah, okay, so now you also teach ballet at Tiffany.
Correct.
So do you see some of those kids and you think, oh man, I want them in the training program because they could really excel, or they could really use that little extra? Is that sort of how you get to know some of these dancers?
Absolutely. So I'm very fortunate to be a part of Tiffany's, because it does offer me a lot of dancers that come into my program automatically just because of proximity. But I also work with dancers from Ratio Dance, from Elite Dance Center. So a lot of different dance studios, they allow their kids to come to me for their training. And so what I sort of do is I see kids that are really committed, and here at least, at Tiffany's, I see kids that are really committed. I say, hey, would you like extra training? Are you thinking about becoming a professional dancer? I talk to their parents, and then we see if that's the right step for them.
So what is the ultimate objective? Who is the right student for you? Is it someone who is looking to dance professionally? Is it someone who is just looking to sort of expand their technique? Who are you really hoping to get in the doors?
I just want any student that has an appreciation and love and passion for dance, and they want to make their technique better. Because lots of times your most talented dancers don't become professional dancers just because life happens, or they fall in love with something else, they have different passions. I think, again, because my program is training based, I don't feel any type of ownership over them or their career. I'm just happy to offer them whatever it is that they want to maximize out of their program. So I don't know that I have an ideal of the perfect student. I just want a student that is really committed to what they want to do and is really going to appreciate ballet for the art that it is.
Okay, but do you get those students who really love it and are really talented, and then you start to go, oh, I feel some, not ownership, but you really want to see them continue on?
Absolutely. So I have some students right now that, I have a student that just signed with an agency. I have had other students that have signed with agencies. One of my students that lives in Atlanta right now has danced for Usher and danced for Kanye West, and I mean, he took ballet very seriously in class, but obviously that wasn't what he didn't want to desire to have a ballet career.
Sure.
But then I've also had dancers that have danced for New York City Ballet or have danced for Charlotte Ballet and things like that. And you do see the passion, and you do see that they have the facility or the body and all of the right, they check all of the boxes. And so what I try to do is just be there to help facilitate that for them, answer any questions their parents may have, and, just help to guide them as much as possible, because I've seen coaches before that can be a little too hands-on and too aggressive. Sure. And then you end up wanting it more than your student wants it. And I never want that to happen. I always want it to be my student's passion, my student's goal, and then I'm there to support them,
Yeah.
So
tell me about that. You have the intermediate training program. I don't want to botch it, but you have two different tracks. How does that work?
So the intermediate program is for students ages 9 to 12 traditionally, and they come Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for an hour. And so those kids all are at the younger age, and so they don't need as much training. It's just a little bit. And so a lot of times too, they also all go to a traditional school, so they can't get out in time. And all of them all dance at other studios as well. So I'm just giving them the maximum amount of training that they can have, in addition to them being able to dance at their other studio. And then I have my advanced program, and that's typically for the dancers that have definitely decided that they want to have some sort of professional career or go to college or and dance in college and things like that. And so they come to me in the daytime from 1:15 to 3:45, and they either are homeschooled during the day or they go to a school that accommodates their schedule and lets them get out early. So I'm very fortunate that I have some schools in the area that work with me that understand that these students of mine are top tier athletes, and it's very important that they fit in all of their training, so that way they can, again, be the best dancer that they can be, because the dance world is just highly competitive.
Yeah. Okay, tell me how it looks. Let's take the intermediate track, for example. I imagine that each of those kids need something different from you based on facility, you call it?
Correct.
How do you balance that 1 hour a day for 3 days a week, giving everybody what they need, knowing that it's probably so different?
Well, I have a syllabus that I follow. And so the syllabus that I follow is from a school called Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet. And you kind of follow them step by step. Not to a T, you don't do exactly the exercises, but it might say, plies, and then you get to do your own version of plies. Right. And so what I do before each of class that I have, I look at the syllabus, I have a calendar of the date that I introduce certain steps, and then I say, okay, we haven't done this step in a while, so I need to introduce this step, and we haven't done this step yet, and I need to introduce that step. And so I go step by step by step. So hopefully by the end of the year, I will have introduced a whole genre of steps for them to be able to do now. And so that's sort of how I develop my day. But I also keep my program in small numbers because it's only me teaching, and I don't want it to be so big where there's this class of 40 students and not a single student gets a correction that day because I'm just giving class.
Sure.
So if someone were to see me teach, I'm on the floor the entire time, I'm getting up, I'm giving corrections on the floor because I'm constantly fixing people's feet and I'm giving everyone corrections the entire time, versus some teachers, I've had in the past will just, sit in the chair and just kind of snap their fingers and tell you what to do. But my program is so hands-on because you're right, every student has something that they need to work on. So in the advanced program, we kind of put what's called like the perfume on the dancing. So they've developed all of the technical skills now, the stretched knees, the pointed toes, the heel on top. And now we're just talking about the placement of the head and where you look at the audience and the musicality and all the little extra details. So that way when they are performing on stage, they can add that into their dancing. Whereas I would say the intermediate program is a little bit more like the basic technique, but advanced is definitely more of the details and the finesse.
What has dance, art taught you about yourself?
I would say perseverance, like I was saying earlier, you get a lot of rejections and a lot of no's and, you can't do this or you shouldn't do that. But it's kind of like, you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just take each day by itself, and I talk to my students a lot of times about turning lemons into lemonade, because every day there's a different type of struggle. Maybe your foot hurts or your neck is sore, you can't turn today or you can't jump high today. And so I just try to tell them, like, let's talk about the positive things. I don't want to hear about the negative things. We all know the negative things. We're standing in front of a mirror, we can see all the negative things from head to toe. Let's talk about the positive things and then we can work through the negative things together. So I would say perseverance.
I love that that's your answer and that's what you convey to your students as well. They're so lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Fort Wayne, we're so lucky to have your program. Look for me in a few years.
Okay.
Won't be me, but it'll be my little girl.
Sounds good.
We'll be sure she gets some good technique. Kevin, you are delightful. This was so wonderful. Thanks for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by